Hey church family, it's Pastor Derek and I am so excited about our One Worship services starting on November 13th. That means we're going to be in one combined worship service at 10:30 a.m. Our life groups will meet at 9 a.m. There are a few things I want to tell you about this as you prepare and pray and get excited about this. And by the way, thank you. I've heard from so many of you who are so excited about worshiping together as one. If you are in a life group, you are part of one of our adult life groups, then your life group will meet at 9 a.m. Many of you will meet in the same room, but you need to double check with your life group leader to make sure you know where your group's going to meet. You can also call the church office and we can let you know as well. If you're one of our student or children's volunteers, then you should already know how things are going to work out in the children's ministry and student ministry. If not, then please contact Brent Vance, who's our children's minister, or Ralph Rimmer, who's our student pastor, and just find out how that works out in your area of ministry. In our preschool department, please reach out to Karen Foster, who's our preschool director, and find out where you need to be and where you need to serve. And by the way, to our student volunteers and our children's volunteers, and especially our preschool volunteers, I want to say a huge thank you. What you do is so important in the life of our church and in advancing God's kingdom. Not only do you teach the youngest among us the gospel of Jesus Christ, but you provide opportunities for parents to worship in an environment free of distraction. You know, we've all been in public places when our kids really weren't acting the way we wish they would act, and it feels like everyone in the room is looking at you. Now the truth is they're not, and that certainly doesn't happen in our church, but it still feels that way for parents. And so if you bring a kid in, even especially if you're a first-time guest, and even if you love Jesus and you want to connect to a church, it's hard when you come in, you're a first-time guest and your kid doesn't know what's going on and you don't know where to sit, you don't know what time things start, and you bring your kid in and maybe they're a little more squirmy than normal and maybe they say something out loud during the middle of the service. That can be a really difficult thing. It's even more difficult for people who are unchurched, for people who are coming into a church building for the first time. One of the greatest fears that non-Christian parents have is coming into an environment where there are Christian parents. You know what? They actually think our kids are perfect. They never make mistakes. They don't act up in church. We know that's not true, but they don't. And so when their kid acts out, they feel like everyone in the room is looking at them. And I've personally witnessed this many times where I've seen parents go through just that, and then they end up never coming back to church. Of course, that's not the environment we want here at First Baptist Tillmans Corner. And so part of what we're doing in this transition is we are opening the option for kids worship during our worship service. What that means is for our first through third graders, that after the singing, we'll dismiss them and they'll be able to go back for a time of kids worship. Now that's completely optional. I know many families who will want to keep their children with them for the entirety of the service, and hey, it doesn't matter how squirmy they are, how squiggly they are, or how much noise they make. It's not a problem with us. It's not a problem with me. If they get too loud, we'll just turn the speakers up. It will not be a problem. But if it works better for you and your family, for your first through third graders to go into kids worship, then as I said, after the music portion of the service, they'll be dismissed and they can do just that. Now for our kindergartners, I know that in the past our kindergartners have gone to our preschool department for 1 hour and then they've sat with their families for the second hour. But we're going to allow our kindergartners, again, it's up to each family, we'll allow our kindergartners to stay for the second hour. So please just make note of that. Do whatever works best for your family. And you know what? I'm really excited about what's going to happen when we come together as a church, unified, worshiping together in one service. I really believe this is going to be catalytic for the life of our church. I believe we're going to see people come to know the Lord. I believe we're going to see people come back, not only to our church, but mostly come back to Jesus and come back to a passionate relationship with Him. I believe God is going to use this in a big way. So I want to encourage you. This is a great time to invite your friends and your family, your neighbors, those in your life, those that God has placed you into relationships with who need Jesus. Maybe they're lost and they need to come to salvation. Maybe they need to be brought back to the Lord. Or maybe they just need the encouragement that comes from worshiping with other believers, other followers of Christ. Whoever it is, whoever God puts on your heart, let's invite them, let's bring them here. And you know, as much as I love being together, I'm praying that we'll only be able to do this for a few months until this place is packed and we have to go back to 2 services. But from now until then, we're going to enjoy the opportunity God's given us to worship together as a faith family. Can't wait to see you Sunday, November 13th. We'll see you there.